Well, we finally have a Stanley Cup champion, so a big congratulations goes out to What's on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you. Today, welcome back to some more NHL content. We are back here following the end of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we finally have a winner. So congratulations first of all go off to the Florida Panthers. They finally did it, after coming runners up, and now they did it, right? They won the cup. They beat Edmonton in game 7 after going up 3-0 in the series. Edmonton then winning the next 3 games, tying it up 3-3, going game 7, really close battle, a little 2-1 victory for the Panthers. But it makes me want to look back at the rest of the playoffs, because it seems like it's been what seems to be forever since they actually started. But unfortunately, the graphic I found doesn't actually give the round counts or anything, which is kind of annoying, but at the same time, we can talk about it nonetheless. So let's take a look, starting in the Western Conference, as the Dallas Stars versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Of course, we predicted this one a little bit differently than it ended up. With the reinforcements for Vegas, getting their roster back together and getting all their guys back in the lineup, we were expecting them to come out and kind of show up, and we didn't. So that sucks. Obviously, clutching into the wild card spot was big for them, but Dallas shows why they were the #1 team in the Central. So they got on a good streak there going into round 2. Winnipeg, Colorado. Colorado shows why they're still one of the best teams in the league, with the guys over there. So they move on to the second round. Vancouver, great year by them. Can't really say too much. You can't say enough, actually, about Vancouver. But they move on over a Nashville squad that, I don't know, it's just kind of like you're not expecting a lot from them, even though you kind of expect a lot from them. Then you also have the Oilers versus Kings. Of course, the Oilers do end up moving on. So then you have really good matchups in the West, right? Dallas and Colorado. That is a pretty good series. Dallas does win that one. They move on to the conference finals. Vancouver, Edmonton. If this was last year or going into this year and you showed me this playoff bracket, I would have been, all right, Vancouver, right? That's pretty easy, right? Edmonton doesn't really know how to win in the playoffs. And now look at them. They beat Vancouver. They move on to the Western Finals, where they beat Dallas as well. So Edmonton, they beat LA, they beat Vancouver, they beat Dallas, they beat 3 solid teams on their route to the Stanley Cup Finals. The Florida Panthers, on the other hand, they beat Tampa Bay Lightning, which the fact that they were in a wild card spot this year is actually incredible. But they end up, Battle of Florida. They move on. Florida versus Tampa, that is. So Florida moves on. Boston, Toronto doesn't disappoint. Boston moves on. Rangers versus Capitals. I'm pretty sure, most people would have expected that to be an easy 4-0. Washington, they've had their time. They've already made some moves this offseason. So, hopefully that will jumpstart the next at least few years for them and, kind of wrap up Ovechkin's career on a good note. But the Rangers do move on. That one was, probably the easiest series to predict out of this entire bracket. Then you had Carolina versus the Islanders. Carolina's one of those, I don't want to say sneaky teams, because they've been good for a while, but, just one of those teams that you don't really see a lot of, superstar players there, but you see, a lot of really good young talent that all work very well together. The fact that they acquired Evgeny Kuznetsov from Washington, and he basically put in their 4th line along with, who was the other player that was on? Was it Teravainen? Or there was one other player that was that should have never been on a 4th line, but he was, just given the amount of talent on that team. But then Carolina, though, goes up against the Rangers in the second round. So, and again, 4 really good teams. I think all the top seeds win in the first, almost, except for the Colorado Winnipeg, every other top seed won. So that's kind of interesting to see. But then Florida versus Boston, obviously good series. Then Rangers versus Carolina, again, pretty good series. Rangers versus Florida, we weren't honestly expecting Florida win this one. But, I mean, it's one of those cases where Rangers, they have everything they kind of needed. Just where did their stars go? They kind of just disappeared. But that put up against Florida, I mean, Florida was built for the playoffs. I mean, they have those rough and tough guys, and then you also have the skill there, and what else do you really need? Along with some hot goaltending from Bobrovsky, which then led them into the finals, where you had two teams that you honestly wouldn't really have predicted to be there. I mean, I know Florida got the #1 seed in the Atlantic, but it just, you don't really expect them to be like, all right, they're there at the end, but they're good enough to get there. But then they showed us this year, right? You have to believe in them because they have everything you need to make a deep Stanley Cup run. And so they end up against the Oilers, which is, again, something that you don't really expect, right? You were expecting a Dallas, a Colorado, or even a Vancouver there, or even, you know, the Knights. They made it there, right? Connor McDavid had 42 points or something like the 40-something points in the playoffs, which is absolutely insane, which is something that I have never seen before, is the Conn Smythe got awarded to a player that wasn't on the winning team of the Cup, which I guess is interesting, but you know it is the most valuable player of the playoffs. And if it wasn't a player from the team that won, I mean, I guess you kind of have to give it to another player. So that was just something interesting to watch. I don't know if anyone else has seen that in their lifetime. Maybe I could look this up after we get done recording. But when was the last player that won the Conn Smythe that wasn't on the winning team? That's a trivia question. Doing some homework for you guys. But obviously, it was a great series. 7 games. For Florida to go up 3-0 and Edmonton to claw back to 3-3 and then play a close game 7. I mean, that gives them props. To give them some confidence for the future. And even going forward, Edmonton kind of knows what they need to do to get there and what they kind of need to do to build around McDavid, Draisaitl in their back end. They figured it out, or at least, did well enough this year that hopefully that gives them a spark for the future of, hey, this is what we can achieve if all the right pieces are in place. So an absolute crazy and amazing playoff run. I mean, obviously, I'm sad by Vegas not being there. They snuck into the playoffs at the last second, and they were out just before you know it. But, lots of crazy stuff already happened this offseason. We've got the draft coming up as well. So, of course, we'll try to, keep track of all these moves because I know there's a lot happened so far. But either way, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you did enjoy, hit the like button down below. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button. And as always, guys, we'll see you